Hello， 大家好，歡迎嚟到天下知多啲，我係 Dennis。請大家麻煩大家睇到呢條片嘅時候呢，就麻煩你停留多過30秒，非常之慘。之前以為3萬幾就好開心，結果原來佢唔計數，因為入邊可能就碌過咗就算數嗰啲人。就少過3秒，佢就唔計數。唉，真係冇辦法，因為我都係寄人籬下啦，寄 YouTube 籬下。咁啊，好需要大家嚟幫手點讚、支持、訂閱所有嘅嘢。我攞咗我攞咗1000個。呢上邊你見到我喐緊嗰個標板啊，上邊你見到喐緊有個標板，獨立宣言有中英文啦，而家開始有放，我亦都喺度等緊多啲人同時間嚇。咁免費訂閱，歡迎留言，請點讚。立即註冊即可獲得30蚊美金，就喺 description 下邊咧有條 link 啊。咁咧呢個每1000訂閱咧就送驚喜嘅。咁啊，我以為咧1000個訂閱咧就已經有一個可觀嘅收入啦，可以叫做幫補。跟住我就已經做咗一啲即係回饋觀眾嘅行動啦。我就捐咗100蚊俾Unique Love 嗰個智能障礙嘅組織嘅，寫咗張票送咗出去㗎啦。咁啊，但係發覺原來咧過去一路嗰啲嘅幾萬嘅收視，所謂幾萬收視係得個0嘅。咁啊，因為好多嗰啲即係好多嘅 view 咧係唔計數，正式嘅 view 咧就唔係好多，所以好需要大家見到個節目之後咧就麻煩你而家得6個啦。咁我開之後咧就可能會可能要等啲人入嚟咯，希望等多啲人入嚟啦。Hello， 見到啦，有人 say hi Red。Hi Red， 不過要等多啲人入嚟啦，希望我可以繼續咁樣，因為陣間一路其實今日呢幾個主題，我而家上邊個標板咧就出咗中英文版本啦，因為咧我發覺好多英文嘅觀眾啊，咁佢見到上邊咧就知道我準備有咩 topic 啦 ，compare NBC and Fox interview 啦 ，compare NBC Fox and interview， 可能我可以再較慢少少。將上邊嗰個標板轉翻慢少少，咁我一路咧就會打咩啦，一路就會打留言啦。The British government just make a serious mistake. Oh, interesting. I should look into it. Thank you. Maybe I will talk about it tomorrow. But today I already start all my topic. And on the top bar under subscribe, there's the topic that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to share. I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to share about it, and then you guys think about what it is. Okay, let's get started.
You're next to me.
Thank you so much.
Voilà. Good afternoon and welcome to the Commission's press room. We are here with the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, for a press point following their bilateral meeting.
Yes.
President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Dear Volodymyr, what a pleasure to welcome you back to Brussels. I'm very pleased to be here with you today for our bilateral meeting that we just had, but also then the VTC that we will have in the Coalition of the Willing. And of course, I'm very glad that I'm able to accompany you and other European leaders for the meeting tomorrow that we do have with the US President in the White House. Since the beginning of Russia's brutal invasion, Europe has been at Ukraine's side, united, and we will support you for as long as it takes, for just and lasting peace. And this peace must be achieved through strength. Let me touch upon the main points. First, we must have strong security guarantees to protect both Ukraine and Europe's vital security interests. Ukraine must be able to uphold its sovereignty and its territorial integrity. There can be no limitations on Ukrainian armed forces, be it cooperation with or other third countries or assistance from other third countries, no limitations for the Ukrainian armed forces. As I've often said, Ukraine must become a steel porcupine, undigestible for potential invaders. We welcome President Trump's willingness to contribute to Article 5-like security guarantees for Ukraine. And the coalition of the willing, including the European Union, is ready to do its share. We know that the work of defending Europe is first and foremost our responsibility. And we've been working hard to speed up and scale up as we increase Europe's defense capability. Through the SAFE instrument, we are ensuring that the defense needs of member states and Ukraine can be matched, and that Ukraine's industrial defense base is strengthened. I am thinking in particular of drones here. This is in our mutual interest, and I intend to travel to the frontline member states in the coming weeks. At the same time, we continue to support Ukraine's path to its membership in the European Union. This in itself is also a security guarantee. My second point, with regards to any territorial questions in Ukraine, our position is clear. International borders cannot be changed by force. These are decisions to be made by Ukraine and Ukraine alone, and these decisions cannot be taken without Ukraine at the table. My third and final point, as long as the bloodshed in Ukraine continues, Europe will maintain diplomatic and in particular economic pressure on Russia. We will continue to strengthen sanctions. We have adopted 18 packages so far, and we are advancing preparation for the 19th. This package will be forthcoming in early September. We know that sanctions are effective. We have already put Russia's immobilized assets to work for the benefit of Ukraine, and we will continue to put pressure on Russia's war economy to bring President Putin to the negotiation table. We're working with you, Volodymyr, and President Trump in this sense, and we will discuss all these topics and others in our joint meeting at the White House tomorrow. These are challenging times. Only Ukraine can choose its own destiny, but Ukraine can always count on Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dear Ursula, thank you for your support. Thank you for this day. It's very important for all your support from the very beginning of this war. And it's very important that you are with us and that we speak to America and we speak together. And it's important that Washington is with us. And today, in several forums, we are deciding what we are going to discuss in Washington. Dear journalists, it's crucial that Europe is as united now as it was at the very beginning, as it was in 2022, when the full-scale war began. This unity really helps to reach real peace, and it must stay strong. First, we have to stop the killings. Putin has many demands, but we do not know all of them. And if there are really as many as we heard, then it will take time to go through them all. It's impossible to do this under the pressure of weapons. So it's necessary to cease fire and work quickly on a final deal. We'll talk about it in Washington. Putin does not want to stop the killing, but he must do it. Second, we need real negotiations, which means they can start where the front line is now. The contact line is the best line for talking, and Europeans support this. And we thank everyone. Russia is still unsuccessful in Donetsk region. Putin has been unable to take it for 12 years. And the constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen, and if Russia refuses, then new sanctions must follow. This word, it's important that America agrees to work with Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and we are very thankful to the United States and to the President for such signal, and therefore for everyone in Europe. This is a significant change, but there are no details how it will work, and what America's role will be, what Europe's role will be, what the EU can do. And this is our main task. We need security to work in practice, like Article 5 of NATO, and we consider EU accession to be part of security guarantees. And we have heard from President Trump that America and Putin see it the same way. So we talked about the EU accession negotiations. There can be no division between Ukraine and Moldova. That would simply be a very bad move to my mind, and if such a division takes place, it will automatically mean that Europe is divided on Ukraine, that Europe does not have a common and strong position on guarantees. Many in Europe see that vision will only make things worse. And we talked about defense, and thank you very much, dear Ursula. We agreed to work more actively on programs such as SAFE, and I count on the support with drones. First of all, this is priority. Next, thank you for the 18th package of sanctions. It's important. We need to prepare the 19th package so that Russia sees that we are serious. We understand Russia's strategic direction. It's anti-European, and so we must continue to limit Russia's potential. Finally, we talked about the support of Ukrainian children in schools, and we have a school meal program, and it's an important program that ensures that children from every family in wartime at least receive security and receive a normal hot meal. The school year is coming soon, and I asked Ursula to help us improve this program. It's our children, it's our future, everything for them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both presidents. We can now take a couple of questions. Okay. Katarina, the first question.
Thank you. Katarina Redans for the German press agency.
You have microphones in front of you. If you can take one, that would be fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, better? So Katarina Redans for the German press agency. A question to both presidents. Do you agree with President Trump that there's no need for a ceasefire and that peace negotiations negotiations should begin immediately?
Yeah, you want?
So, I think not the term is so important. Important is, and it matters, what's the effect. And the effect must be stop the killing. That's the most important part. Whether we call it a ceasefire or it's a peace deal, stop the killing. Point number one. Therefore, it is so important to have as soon as possible a trilateral meeting between the President of Ukraine, the President of the United States and of Russia. I think very important is that there are clear timelines to be kept. So it's not the term itself, it's the content that matters.
Thanks so much. I totally agree with Ursula. And you know that from the very beginning, I think it was March when the President of the United States, he proposed ceasefire, like a first element, stopping killing. And we agreed it and we supported him. And I think it was very strong idea, pushing Russia to real negotiations. And now we hear another signals. I think that we have to share all this with details and what Ursula said about and what we talked bilaterally and what we will talk now with all our coalition villains, with all the Europeans. And we have to share all our thoughts with President Trump. We need United States on our side. And I think that President Trump shared that we will need peace, but steps to this peace. We need, correct steps to have lasting peace, to stop Putin. It means not to make a pause in this war. Stop and have a lasting peace. Yeah, for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks. Second and last question to Olena. Thanks.
Thank you. I will start in Ukrainian if possible. Олена Абрамович, Радіо Свобода, українська служба. Пане президенте, Путін сказав, що розуміє, що Україні потрібні гарантії безпеки. У вас вже була розмова з президентом Трампом. Скажіть, чи озвучив він бачення Росії щодо гарантій безпеки для України, які прийнятні для Росії, так? І які гарантії безпеки, власне, прийнятні для України? Чи досі ми говоримо про troops on the ground, тобто війська певні, чи це ця 5 стаття, якщо можете пояснити ваше бачення, як це може виглядати? І коротке просто, як у вас настрій, чи нема перестроги, що в Білому домі може все піти так само, як було 28 лютого? Дякую. I'm sorry, if I may also to the Madam President, another question.
I think we're good with one because we have a call soon.
Very quickly. Дякую. Can I answer Ukrainian? Yep. Дякую. Дякую за запитання. Передусім, я не знаю, про що реально говорили Путін і президент Трамп. І я хочу, щоб багато деталей президент Трамп сказав мені, потім європейським лідерам. І те, що президент Трамп сказав сигнал про гарантії безпеки, для мене це набагато важливіше, ніж думки Путіна. Тому що Путін нам не дасть ніяких гарантій безпеки. Гарантії безпеки – це сильна армія. Це може дати тільки Україна. Фінансування цієї армії – це може дати тільки, я вважаю, Європа. Зброю для цієї армії – це може дати наше внутрішнє виробництво, європейське виробництво, але є дефіцитні речі, які є тільки у Сполучених Штатів Америки. Оце, я вважаю, гарантії безпеки. Чи підключають, чи є troops on the ground, чи є така захист, як у деяких інших держав в небі, ви знаєте про що я. Чи є у нас можливість мати сучасний total number of air defense. Це тільки поки що запитання. На них ми дуже хочемо отримати відповідь, щоб розуміти, що таке гарантії безпеки. Те, про що ви говорите, мені здається, це сигнали руської сторони, що вони не будуть нас далі окуповувати. Але, якщо чесно, це поки що це просто слова. І на рівні тристоронньої зустрічі готові говорити. Що стосується Білого дому, я налаштований дуже продуктивно. І в гарному сенсі. В усіх сенсах цього слова.
Mr. President, do you have
apologies. Sorry. If
We go.
you
Thank
allow
you so
me,
much.
the presidents have a
Bye-bye.
meeting now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, thanks for the time. The July 4th.
Thank you everyone for your comment. Thank you for subscribe my channel. Please stay longer than 30 seconds because it's very funny. YouTube doesn't count if the viewer didn't watch more than 30 seconds. I appreciate all your comments. Thank you, Red, and thank you everyone. Even you don't like Trump, see, this is politics. That's the that's normal, okay? And that's the reality, and that's how we're going to solve the problem. I'm going to talk about leaks, and let's see how leaks. I'm going to bring two interview. Both are interviewing Secretary Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. You can see how NBC and how Fox approach this problem, this Russia Ukraine war. We will just kick his root for not supporting Ukraine. Okay, that's also okay. That's your opinion. Thank you. And I think here's is a great lesson I find out today. Very interesting. I'm going to show a clip, the interview from NBC, interview from Fox, both interviewing Marco Rubio. Let me put out the. This is NBC. Later, I'm going to show. After this, I will show Fox, and you watch it and see how each anchor are bringing out question. Basically, some questions are the same, some difference. Okay, and it's very interesting. By watching this, I watched a couple times, and I find out, wow. Okay, please stay tuned. This and welcome for comment. I was thinking of putting out a poll, but we'll see.
Joining me now is Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio. Secretary Rubio, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So heading into the meeting with President Putin on Friday, President Trump said he wanted a ceasefire agreement. Now he is saying he wants a broader peace deal. We know that Ukraine, we know that European allies want a ceasefire first. Is a ceasefire now off the table, Mr. Secretary?
No, it's not off the table. I think what the president said, in fact, you just read it on the air a few moments ago, it was agreed to by all that the best way to end this conflict is through a full peace deal. There's no doubt about that. I mean, who would be against the fact if tomorrow we came to you and said we have a full peace deal and it's done? I think that's the best way to end the war. Now, whether there needs to be a ceasefire on the way there, well, we've advocated for that. Unfortunately, the Russians, as of now, have not agreed to that. But the ideal here, what we're aiming for here is not a ceasefire. What we ultimately are aiming for is an end to this war.
Well, I want to drill down on that exactly and what happened, because as you just heard before the meeting with President Putin, President Trump warned there would be, quote, very severe consequences for Russia if it didn't stop the war. Here's a little bit more of what he said on the plane ride over. Take a look.
I want to see a ceasefire rapidly. I don't know if it's going to be today, but I'm not going to be happy if it's not today.
So what exactly changed? Is it that Putin would not agree to a ceasefire?
Well, first of all, the Russians are already facing very severe consequences. There's not a single sanction that's been lifted. And not one. I mean, they're facing all the same sanctions that have been in place today. All the American support continues for Ukraine. And ultimately, look, if we're not going to be able to reach an agreement here at any point, then there are going to be consequences. Not only the consequences of the war continuing, but the consequences of all those sanctions continuing and potentially new sanctions on top of it as well. But what we're trying to do right now is end the war. And in order to end a war, you've got to give every opportunity that exists. You have to be open to any opportunity that exists to bring it about. And here's the thing to remind everybody. And when the president says this is not our war, but let's be frank, this is not our war. The United States is not in a war. Ukraine is in a war. And we've been supporting Ukraine. We happen to be in the role of the only country in the world, with the only leader in the world, that can actually bring Putin to a table to even discuss these things. Now, the president has traveled, all the way to Alaska, all the way back, has dedicated months and months of work, our entire team on this matter, because we want to see an end to the war. But if tomorrow the war continues, life in America will not be fundamentally altered. So I think that what we have to understand is that this has been a priority for this president because he wants to promote peace. He wants to promote the end of a war. And I think we should be happy that we have a president that's trying to promote peace and bring a war to an end.
Mr. Secretary, let's look at the state of the war. It's really captured in this chart. I want to put it up on the screen for our viewers. It shows that Russian attacks on Ukraine have nearly doubled since President Trump came into office. And in fact, in July, Russia launched more than 6,000 missiles and drones. That's the highest amount of attacks since the war began. What do you say to Ukrainians who worry that without a ceasefire in place, you are giving Putin more leverage at the negotiating table and a green light to drop more bombs?
Well, the problem with that is that we've been asking for a ceasefire for a long period of time. We think usually it's very hard to negotiate when you're in the middle of hostilities. But that said, the only way to have a ceasefire is for both sides to agree to stop firing at one another. Beyond that, and the Russians just haven't agreed to that. Beyond that, I would say that one of the complications about ceasefires is they have to be maintained, which is very difficult. I mean, every single day we keep an eye on what's happening between Pakistan and India, what's happening between Cambodia and Thailand. Ceasefires can fall apart very quickly, especially after a 3.5-year war like what we're facing now. But I don't think anyone disagrees that the ideal here, what we're aiming for, is not some permanent ceasefire. What we're aiming for here is a peace deal. So there's not a war now and there's not a war in the future.
But why not impose more sanctions on them and force them to agree to a ceasefire instead of accepting that Putin won't agree to one?
Well, first, I think that's something that a lot of people go around saying that I don't necessarily think is true. I don't think new sanctions on Russia are going to force them to accept the ceasefire. They're already under very severe sanctions. I think that it should be, you could argue that could be a consequence of refusing to agree to a ceasefire or the end of hostilities. But there is no evidence that more sanctions, because sanctions take months and sometimes years to bite. And we may very well wind up in that place. I hope not, because that means that peace talks failed. But we have to give every opportunity for peace a chance in this particular case. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so those options remain to the president. The minute he takes those steps, all talk stop. The minute we take those steps, there is no one left in the world to go talk to the Russians and try to get them to the table to reach a peace agreement. So that moment may come. I hope not, because I hope we get a peace deal.
But so, Mr. Secretary, a lot of people have heard President Trump threaten sanctions for months, and they are wondering, are they empty threats? Why hasn't he punished Putin to date for this war since taking office?
Well, again, every single sanction that was in place on the day he took over remained. And the impact of all those sanctions remain. You know, when the Russians landed in Alaska, they were there to refuel. They had to offer to pay in cash to refuel their airplanes because they can't use our banking system. They face consequences every single day. But the bottom line is that has not altered the direction of this war. That doesn't mean those sanctions are inappropriate. It means it hasn't altered the outcome of it. And here's what we do think is important, and that is that we end this war. To end this war, you have to be able to engage with the Russians. As much as people may not like it, as distasteful as people may find it, the only way to end this war is to get the Russians to agree, as well as the Ukrainians, but the Russians to agree to a peace deal. And the minute you issue new sanctions, your ability to get them to the table, our ability to get them to the table, will be severely diminished. That moment may arrive, but when it comes, what you're basically signaling is there is no opportunity for peace at this point. So just let's put on more sanctions and allow more people to get bombed and more people to be killed. And that's what we're trying to stop.
So, Mr. Secretary, what will Russia have to give up? What concessions will Russia, the aggressor, have to make as a part of this peace agreement?
Well, that's what these negotiations are about. And as you can imagine, everybody goes into a negotiation wanting 100% of what they want. That includes Ukraine, but obviously the Russians. And the only way to reach a deal on anything, whether it's in business or in politics or in geopolitics, the only way to reach a deal is for each side to get something and each side to give something. And that's been very difficult. If it was easy, this wouldn't have been going on for 3.5 years. Understand, the longer these wars go on, the harder they are to end, unfortunately, because one side is always looking for leverage on the other. In this particular case, the Russian side as well. And so I think that's the core of what we're trying to work through here. That's why Zelensky's coming tomorrow. That's why European leaders are coming tomorrow. That's why the president called them from the airplane, spent 2 hours in the middle of the night talking to them. And that's why we've been engaged with them every step of the way, is we are trying to find what can we get to that both sides can agree on. And it's been difficult. This is a hard issue set, but we're dedicating a lot of time to it. And the president deserves credit for dedicating time to it.
And I understand that these negotiations are ongoing, but can you name one thing that President Trump is asking Russia to give up in order to get peace?
Well, I'm not going to disclose those things, because if we do, then you can imagine the negotiations could fall apart. These negotiations, look, I know everybody wants to know what's happening, and to a certain degree that's important. But what's more important is that these negotiations work. And for us to run to the press, like you see these leaks sometimes that are completely inaccurate, and in many cases, sometimes you see leaks out there that undermine the negotiations. Okay, these negotiations, in order for them to be successful, require for us to allow both sides to agree to potential concessions or discuss potential concessions without it finding its way in the public sphere and creating all kinds of internal problems for one country or the other country. So here's the bottom line. We all know what the elements of such a deal. There has to be talk about what the territories are going to look like and what the border lines are going to look like at the end of this conflict. There has to be talk about Ukraine's legitimate desire for security in the long term, to make sure they don't get invaded again. There has to be talk about how Ukraine is rebuilt, and how do you rebuild a country that's been attacked as often as it has over the last 3.5 years. These are all key elements of any agreement. We understand that. And each side is, if there's going to be a deal, each side is going to have to give up on something. That's just a fact.
Mr. Secretary, I want to show folks what Ukraine looks like right now. This is a map of Ukraine. That red section there, that's the area currently under control by Russia. It's about 20% of the entire country. There are reports that Putin is asking to keep all of this territory in a potential deal. Is that what's being discussed? Can you confirm that?
Well, I can confirm that he's given speeches in which he has said that repeatedly.
So he's asking for that now in these private conversations?
Well, look, ultimately, if the Ukrainians are not willing to give that up, and no one's pushing Ukraine to give that up, and so I don't think that's what. If there's going to be a peace deal, it's not going to look like that. But he certainly is making. He's certainly making demands. He's certainly asking for things that the Ukrainians and others are not willing to be supportive of, and that we're not going to push them to give. And the Ukrainians are asking for things that the Russians are not going to give up on. I know this sounds, I know everybody wants to have more detail, but we're trying to have a serious negotiation here and see if we can find any middle ground between two warring parties in a very difficult war where the Russians feel, as they always do, like they have momentum on their side, and the Ukrainians have been incredibly brave in fighting back and in the defensive posture they've taken. The Ukrainians have inflicted a tremendous amount of damage on the Russians. I think last month alone, 20,000 Russian soldiers were killed in 1 month in this war. So the Ukrainians have inflicted tremendous amount of damage on the Russians as a result of this. Both sides are very dug in. This is a difficult one, but we're going to continue to work on it because the president's made it a priority to try to end the war that should have never happened.
Mr. Secretary, you were one of the few people in that room with President Putin and President Trump. You got to look him in the eyes. Do you believe that President Putin believes in Ukraine's right to exist based on what you heard and saw?
Well, look, I wasn't playing any of those games about looking people in the eye and trying to read their minds. I'm reading actions. And that's what we're looking at is actions. What will you agree to? What will you commit to? And what will you follow up on? And in order for this war to end, Russia will have to take actions. Ukraine will have to take actions. Ukraine's partners and allies will have to take actions as well to enforce that peace in the long term. That's what we're interested in. Not all, I get all the drama around this stuff, but at the end of the day, we are talking about a war in which people are being killed and maimed every single day, in which a country has been dismembered by 20%, as you've just pointed out, and it's really important to bring this war to an end. This war doesn't get better. It gets worse as time goes on. It gets worse. It actually threatens to spill over into other areas. So it needs to be stopped. That's why the president's made it a priority. And that's what we're focused on. Concrete actions by both sides, especially the Russian side, to bring this conflict to an end. And we're going to do everything we can to make it happen. Is it possible? I don't know, but we're going to try. We've spent a lot of time on this issue. We have a lot of other issues to focus on, but the president's made this a priority, and he deserves credit for that.
Mr. Secretary, a couple more questions, and we're almost out of time. NBC News is reporting this morning that NATO-like security guarantees for Ukraine were discussed as a part of this agreement. Can you tell us what role would the United States play in such a security agreement?
Well, there'll have to be some security guarantees for Ukraine, right? I mean, it's one of their fundamental demands is that if this war were to end, they have to make sure this never happens again. They don't want to get reinvaded. They don't want to wait 3 or 4 years from now and find another, war on their hands. So there's going to have to be some security guarantees as part of it. How that's structured, how that's built, what our role will be, that'll be the kinds of things we'll have to work through. But again, that is going to be a key element of this deal. And it is something that in order for there to be a peace, the Russian side is going to have to accept that Ukraine is a sovereign country that has a right to defend itself and has a right to enter into alliances with other countries to defend itself. How that's constructed, what we call it, how it's built, what guarantees are built in there that are enforceable, that's what we'll be talking about over the next few days with our partners who are coming in from overseas tomorrow for a series of meetings and in the days to come. We had a long phone call about this yesterday with several of the national security advisors from various countries in Europe.
Mr. Secretary, I want to play something you said about President Putin. This was right after the invasion in March of 2022. Take a look.
This guy lies, habitually lies. He's never kept a deal they've ever signed, and he lies all the time. And I don't know why, but he plays us like a violin in the West, because the West wants to believe that you can cut a deal with everybody. You can't cut a deal with guys like this. He's a professional, experienced liar.
Mr. Secretary, given that, what makes you think that if you are able to reach a deal with President Putin, that he would stick to it, based on, as you just said, he's a liar?
Well, that's the point. That's why the deal has to have enforceable mechanisms in it. That's why the deal has to have things like security guarantees. That's the point I was making a few minutes ago when you were asking me about looking someone in the eye. What's important here is actions, not words, not paper, document. Those are all important. Those are elements of a deal, but they have to be enforceable. They have to be verifiable. They have to be enduring. There's no point here in signing a deal that's going to be violated in 3 or 4 months. There's no point in doing that. It actually would make things worse. So that's why this is such a difficult thing. Not only do you need a deal that's verifiable, that's enforceable, and that's enduring. If you don't achieve that, then I think you could have a ceasefire for a few months, a few weeks, and then the war will start again and more people will die. That's not the outcome we're interested in. That's not the outcome anyone wants. So that's why this is so difficult.
All right. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, thank you so much for joining us after an historic week. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Joining me now is the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who was also on the trip to Alaska with President Trump and who will be there tomorrow with President Trump and Zelensky at the White House. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Why did President Trump's meeting with Putin end with no ceasefire? And what does Putin want?
Yeah, well, a couple things. First of all, if you recall, there's no way you can have a meeting like that. And we never said there was going to be a deal coming out of the meeting because the Ukrainians are not there. This is a war between two countries. It's not America. It's Ukraine and Russia. We met with the Russian side. We've spoken repeatedly with the Ukrainian side. We'll see them again tomorrow in person along with our allies in Europe. So I do think some progress was made in that talk. In terms of narrowing down the issue set, and now these are hard issues that remain. You know, the conversation about where the territorial lines are going to be, questions about long-term security guarantees and who Ukraine can have military alliances with, things like that. These are difficult things, but I do believe we made progress in narrowing down the issue set, but there's a lot of work that remains. There's a reason why this war has been going on for 3.5 years. It's a war that never would have happened had President Trump been president, but he inherited it. And now he's trying to do everything he can to bring about peace. He's made peace a priority of his administration, as you've seen with all the peace deals we've been able to achieve throughout the world. This one's the hardest one. Everyone acknowledges that. But he's the only one in the world that has any chance of doing it. Look, peace may not be possible at the end of the day. We don't know. But if it is possible, he's the only one that can get it done. And that's why everyone's asking him. They're asking him to meet with Putin. And they're also asking him to come here tomorrow and meet with him to talk further about what we do next.
A European diplomat has confirmed to Fox that President Trump supports Putin's proposal for Russia to take full control of Luhansk and Donetsk, all of Donbass. Do you support this move?
No, first of all, I don't know who told you that, but they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, the president has said that in terms of territories and stuff, these are things that Zelensky's going to have to decide on. These are things that the Ukrainian side is going to have to agree to. That's all the president is trying to do here is narrow down the open issues, narrow them down, and then see if we can play some role in bringing that closer together so we can stop and end this war once and for all. Look, this war is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. You've seen that in the escalation and the attacks. Russia's economy is now 100% full-time war footing. They are producing munitions. The Ukrainians are as well. Both sides are hitting each other very, very hard. And the war is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So he's trying to do everything he can to bring it to an end. But people that are out there talking what they don't know with all these stupid leaks and things of that nature, they all want to just sound important. They don't know what they're talking about. The president's been very clear. In terms of like what Zelensky's going to agree to, that's up to them to decide. They're going to have to decide what they're willing to give and ultimately what they're going to get, what they're going to demand as well. Both sides are going to, but here's what I can tell you for certain. You can't have a peace deal between two warring factions unless both sides agree to give up something and both sides agree that the other side gets something. Right? Otherwise, if one side gets everything they want, that's not a peace deal. It's called surrender. And I don't think this is a war that's going to end anytime soon on the basis of surrender. So this is tough stuff. I mean, it's difficult to bring these two sides together. We made some progress, we believe, and now we'll have to follow up on that progress. And ultimately, where this should lead is to a meeting between the three leaders, between Zelensky, Putin, and President Trump, where we could finalize it. But we got to get this thing closer before we get to that point.
What does Europe want, Secretary?
Well, look, I think the role that Europe can play ultimately in the long term is on security guarantees that Ukraine has been talking about. They should play a key element in that regard. And I also think that Europeans are very helpful being in the room sometimes and sort of giving ideas about, what accommodations can be made and what flexibility the Ukrainian side could have. So that's the role that they've played up to this point. The president invited them to come here. He told President Zelensky to come on Monday and bring European leaders that he chose to bring with him. So there's a handful of heads of state that will be here as well tomorrow at the invitation of the president to see if we can make some progress on some of these points. The president spoke to many of these leaders on the airplane I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning our time. It was probably 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning their time on our way back from Alaska. And and then yesterday I had a call with all the national security advisors of the different countries. So we've got a work agenda ahead of us over the next few days, and we've been talking about these things now for a while as well. So because we also talked to them before, we had multiple meetings and conversations with them leading up to the events in Alaska. So they can play a very constructive role here. But ultimately, only President Trump, if a peace deal is possible, he's the only one that can bring it about.
Is Europe still buying Russian oil?
Well, if you look at the oil that's going to China and being refined, a lot of that is then being sold back into Europe. Europe's also buying natural gas still. Now, there are countries trying to wean themselves off of it. But there's more Europe can do with regards to their own sanctions. If they always talk about sanctions, and they've got a sanctions package coming out as well. But an additional sanctions package supposedly coming out soon. So, but for us, I think the most important role that Europe can play here is to have a constructive role in building up those security guarantees that will allow Ukraine the potential flexibility to make a deal on the rest of the issues that are at stake.
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be a major lever to pull, to put sanctions on Europe or punish Europe for continuing to buy oil and gas from Russia? Is that something on the table?
Well, I don't know about on Europe directly, obviously, but certainly there are implications to secondary sanctions. If you put secondary sanctions on a country, let's say you were to go after the oil sales of Russian oil to China. Well, China just refines that oil. That oil is then sold into the global marketplace, and anyone who's buying that oil would be paying more for it, or if it doesn't exist, would have to find an alternative source for it. So we have heard, when you talk about the Senate bill that was being proposed where there's 100% tariffs on China and India, we did hear from a number of European countries, not in press releases, but we heard from them some concern about what that could mean. But look, I don't want to get into a tit for tat with the Europeans on this. I think they can play a very constructive role here in helping us get to that point. But and the president has kept them in the loop. The first call the president made as soon as the meeting with Putin was over was to the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, who will be there tomorrow as well. We've been in touch with them over and over again with regards to this process. So I think the president's done an incredible job here of trying to bring the sides together. There's a lot of work that still remains. You don't have a deal, as the president says, until you have a deal. This is not an easy deal. This is not a war that began under President Trump. It's not, as you saw acknowledged at the press conference there in Alaska, it's actually a war that would not have happened had President Trump been in the White House. He inherits a 3-year-old war, and now he's trying to untangle it. And because if this falls apart, this thing's going to get far worse and go on much longer. Thousands and thousands of more people are going to die and be injured as a result of this.
Can you give us any clarity on a timeline in terms of the U.S.'s thinking? I mean, obviously there's no ceasefire in place right now. What are the repercussions? Are we just going to watch the murders continue?
No, look, at some point a decision has to be made if a peace deal is possible or not. If at some point it becomes clear that both sides are so far apart and so dug in that we're just not near a peace deal, then the president will have a decision to make about how much more time do we invest in it and what actions does he take then. But I want everyone to understand, if this morning the president woke up and said, I'm putting these terrible, strong sanctions on Russia, that's fine. It may make people feel good for a couple hours, but here's what you're basically saying. You're saying talks are over. For the foreseeable future, for the next year or year and a half, there's no more talks because there's no one else in the world that can talk to him. Okay, Putin's not going to meet with Macron. He's not going to meet with the UK. With all due respect to these leaders, none of these leaders are going to be able to bring him to the table and talk to them. There's only one leader in the world that has any chance of bringing these two sides together. If there is a chance, there's only one leader in the world that can do it, and that's President Trump. And you forfeit that role the minute you put additional sanctions on him. We may get to that point, unfortunately. But if we do, it means that peace talks are no longer possible. And that would be very unfortunate because the real world ramifications are that while we're here calling each other names and doing TV interviews about this stuff and all of that in American politics, there are people who today will be injured and killed in the battlefield and in cities, in Ukraine, on the front lines, and even in Russia. Even as we speak, people that have nothing to do with this war are suffering as a result of it. And I think we are very fortunate and blessed and should be thankful to have a president that has made peace and the achievement of peace a priority of his administration. We've seen it in Cambodia and Thailand. We've seen it in India, Pakistan. We've seen it in Rwanda and the DRC. And we're going to continue to pursue any opportunities we can find to bring about peace in the world.
Understood. What are you expecting to present to Zelensky tomorrow?
Well, I think tomorrow's conversations, a lot of it will be centered around what are the kinds of security guarantees that Ukraine is looking for. Because what Ukraine is looking for here is the war ends. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we make sure that in 2 or 3 years, the Russians don't come back at us? So they want guarantees built up so that they can protect themselves or prevent such a war from occurring in the future. So the details of what that would look like is something that hopefully we'll spend a lot of time discussing tomorrow. We had a long conversation about it yesterday with the national security advisors of multiple European countries. Some work has already gone into it, but now we're at a stage where we need to build some details on it and then ultimately, obviously present that to the Russian side and get them to accept it. But first we have to have our ducks in order.
What kind of security guarantees is the U.S. willing to make?
Well, that'll be part of the conversation tomorrow. At the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that any security guarantee that, the Europeans, there's a lot they can do and a lot they can offer. And it would be a huge concession. It would be a very big move by the president if he were to offer a U.S. commitment to a security guarantee. That'll be his decision to make. And I want people to understand that. That tells you how bad, if he does it, it tells you how badly he wants peace, how much he values peace, that he would be willing to make a concession like that. But ultimately, that'll be a decision for the president to make. That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. I'm sure we'll spend 6-7 hours talking about these things, maybe more, and try to get to a point where we have something more concrete. We've done a lot of work on it already, but some more work is required before we can say that we have a plan on security guarantees that unifies us.
What other economic levers does the U.S. have to use here? I mean, you've got the secondary sanctions, and you said perhaps there is something to be done with China. What about designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, which is something Lindsey Graham has been working on?
Well, those designations can be useful from time to time, but in this particular case, they're not going to change the course of the war. Look, can the U.S. inflict greater pain on the Russian economy, going after the banking sector, the oil companies, and things of this nature? Of course we could. Of course we can. And that always remains, unfortunately, an option. But just understand, if we get to the point where we're doing that, okay, it may make people feel good, and it may have an implication on Russia in the long term. But in the short term, what it means is that talks are over, that at this point, we are basically now stuck with another year and a half or two of war, of death, of destruction. That's what it means. We may get to that point, sadly and unfortunately, because peace is not possible, but that we're trying to avoid getting to that point. We want to give every opportunity possible for the Russians to say yes to something that Ukraine can live with. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think the president deserves a lot of credit for wanting to do that. No one else has tried to do that. Joe Biden couldn't have done it. No other leader in the world could do it. Frankly, he doesn't have to do it. Look, the war in Ukraine gets a lot of attention, and I'm not saying it's an irrelevant thing. It's a very tragic thing that's going on. But life in America on a daily basis will be largely unaffected whether there's peace in Ukraine or not. That's just a fact. We have a lot of issues we're focused on, not just at home, but around the world. But the fact that the president has dedicated this much time to a war between two countries on another continent tells you how much he values peace. And we should be very thankful and grateful that we have a president who's a president of peace, who values peace and wants to use the power of his office to achieve the end of wars and the prevention of new ones.
But isn't the U.S. directly impacted because of that rare earth minerals deal? How important is that deal, and has Putin already affected that deal by bombing the region?
Well, first of all, that deal is important, but I mean, it's not. The United States has other sources of rare earth minerals. I think that deal is very important for Ukraine and in terms of their own reconstruction and rebuilding, and to have American partners in a post-war Ukraine is of great benefit to the Ukrainian. Obviously, it would be great for us too. But I don't think that alone justifies, us being behind a war effort here. What we want to be able to do here is be behind a peace effort. We want to achieve the end of a war. So I'm not saying our interest in Ukraine are zero. What I am saying is the amount of time and energy that this administration has placed on this war is something that people should compare to some of the other issues we have around the world that deserve our attention as well. And the president just deserves a lot of credit for putting so much time and energy behind what's something that is very, very difficult to end. It's a very difficult war to end. The Russians feel very strongly that they have the upper hand, that they're making progress. They don't necessarily feel pressure, and the Ukrainians feel very strongly that they were invaded, that they've been aggrieved, and that what the Russians have done is horrifying and should be stopped. So both sides are pretty dug in. And, we don't have sanctions on Ukraine. We have sanctions on Russia. We don't provide weapons to Russia. We provide weapons and assistance to Ukraine. So the U.S. has done a lot already with regards to this. But this president is trying to figure out how to end it, how to stop it. And I think that's incredible that we have a president willing to use the power of the United States and the power. That's the goal here, is not to win the war, it's to end it.
So will you continue to put pressure on Russia in all ways in order to stop this? What is the next pressure point? Well, in order to have a peace deal, both sides are going to have to make concessions. And so obviously, the Russian side is going to have to make concessions. One side cannot get everything they want. If in a negotiation, one side gets everything they want, that's not a peace deal, that's a surrender. That's the terms of surrender. And I don't think you're going to see surrender by either side anytime soon. So the reality of it is, in order to make a peace deal, Ukraine is going to have to accept things it doesn't like, and Russia is going to have to accept things it doesn't like. And, okay. And we need to be able to use the influence of the presidency to push both sides to make those concessions. Did Putin bring up a potential nuclear deal with the United States as part of this?
No. No, the talks were almost exclusively, and I would say, 99% were just about the war and about how to bring it to an end and the Russian perspective. And people should not underestimate the value of meeting in person. They've had multiple phone conversations, but meeting in person really allows you to get a better gauge of how strongly one side feels about certain issues. We've met with the Ukrainians dozens of times. It's our first meeting with the Russian side in terms of at the level of President Putin. And, obviously hopefully the next time we meet, it'll be because Zelensky's in the room and they're getting close to finalizing a peace deal.
Mr. Secretary, we wish you success tomorrow. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane.
Thank you very much for everyone's comment. Thank you. I'm going to put out the last comment. Fox about the war. NBC Fox is about ending the war. Fox is about ending the war. NBC is about discrediting mega administration. Can everyone see the difference? How Fox asks question? Because the question may help us to understand the way to end the war. And NBC just keep trying to discredit. Trump is not helping. Trump is not doing anything. Trump is helping Putin. Can you see the difference? This is why, that's so biased. Yes, that's why I want to put up 2 videos. Let people really watching. Really, this is perfect comparison. Both asking the same person about the same issue. Both channel, and you can see, of course, different question get different answers, but in general, you can see why NBC sucks. Because the ultimate goal is end the war. People are not dying. The NBC tried to say, hey, put more sanction to Russia. See, Trump knows the people who negotiate knows, people who negotiate know how to negotiate. Because Democrat and Republican in general, they are in two different concepts. Remember that Democrats, democracy and republic. If you look up, there's a difference between democracy and republic. They are two different ideas. In democracy, the majority take over the minority. That's democracy. But in republic, both, doesn't matter big or small group, they work together to come up with a solution, win-win situation, which is harder to do. But republic is the better way for everyone. Everyone has to give out something to earn something. Democracy is, if you're living in the, if you're a sheep living in a wolf pack, and the wolf will vote to see what's for dinner. If you are the sheep, a minority, then you will lose in the democracy system. But in republic, the sheep has a saying and say, hey, let's set the rules. We can do anything but not eaten by you guys. That's the difference. So when Democrats approach the problem, even this guy from the anchor from NBC, how to finish Russia, how to get rid of Russia, because they are the bad guy, they're evil. They invaded Ukraine. They're evil. That's true. We know. Everyone knows. Or invader is never has, invader won't have a say. Okay. But if we want the invader to surrender, you need peace through strength. That's what President Trump is doing. Yeah. Interpol alert. Interpol alert. Oh yeah, Constitution Republic. See, we are Constitution Republic. Great, thank you. There's a whole thing. That's why we stand with the Constitution. And Trump is constitutionalist. Constitutional Republic too. And if you want to go all the way back, if you are new to politics, then you have no idea about Tea Party Patriot, the group. So hey, there are a lot of things we need to talk about. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people involved politics because of the emotion. Oh, they hate this, I like this guy, all the emotion involved. But after a while, oh, California, yes, me too. San Gabriel Valley. Assembly 49. Assembly District 49. Republican, California first. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, too excited. I lost track. Yeah, I need more Californian to follow my post. And also, next topic. Stay tuned. Don't go yet. Next topic. Carl is going to talk about. I'm going to show Carl the gerrymandering. I'm sorry about my Chinglish. Gerrymandering, and how Carl will explain detail about the whole redistricting. But I want to finish about the people who start getting involved in the politics or anything, religion, politics, or shopping. Those a lot of things that start with the emotion. But once the emotion kick in, after a while, after a second or certain time, you need to start using three things to think. First is the knowledge about the topic, and then experience about the topic or products. Knowledge about the products, experience about the products, and logics about the products. Those three things. So once you involve a soda, then you got to think about these three things. After you look at the, how they design all the drinks, a nice bottle and all those nice design. And after that, you start to, you will need knowledge about the products, experience about the products, and logic about the products. So those three things. Politics too. Religions too. Always. Basic method. So when we first got involved in politics, me too, before I didn't get, many people, they don't care about politics. I rather go to watch a movie or NBA or NFL. But once we're involved in politics, then we got to start learning about the politics, about the system. Like earlier, someone, Vanessa talked about oh, thank you, Vanessa. Vanessa, thank you very much. Finally, I have a super chat. Thank you. Vanessa talk about constitutional republic because she knows about she knows already. She learned. See, what happened is we have a lot of Democrat vote Trump, or some register as Republican and then vote Trump. We see a lot of those people. Why? Because first maybe in 2016, they're angry with Trump and say, oh man, this guy is fascist, and this guy is racist, and blah 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 blah, and they got emotion and they don't like Trump. But after a while, they wake up, they say, oh, I better do some research instead of just listen to the left media. See, I just did a comparison. You can see how evil the left media is. And people call us propaganda. No, I'm not a propaganda. I'm just here telling the truth, present it. You guys think about it. But the main thing is you need to educate yourself. I cannot educate, I cannot feed you on every bite. I can help, I can help present as much information as possible, and you have to think about if you want to accept it or not. Oh, thank you, Hong Konger. Welcome back. I love this Hong Konger because I'm Hong Konger. Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate it. And Jim Green, Trump host. Whatever, Yeah, those are emotional talking. After a while, we need to end those emotional talk. We need to be having, okay, let me type it out so people go back and, because afraid my knowledge, experience, knowledge, experience, and logic. 2. Okay, hopefully people can see about this. You will. Thank you, Patriot. Yeah, thank you. I really feel, touching. Really feel touching. Okay, because so I hope everyone can stay tuned, because next video is about how the New World Order and independent. This is from the video from my friend. So from my friend from Central California. So he's okay with me using his video. Okay. And it's fun too, this video. I don't know where he get it or he make it himself. So let's see.
If you still believe in the Declaration of Independence, then the New World Order isn't just a threat, it's your sworn enemy.
Each of us here today is the emissary of a distinct culture, a rich history, and a people bound together by ties of memory, tradition, and the values that make our homelands like nowhere else on earth. That is why America will always choose independence and cooperation over global governance, control, and domination. I honor the right of every nation in this room to pursue its own customs, beliefs, and traditions. The United States will not tell you how to live or work or worship. We only ask that you honor our sovereignty in return.
Those are words they never expected to hear again. A clear stand for national sovereignty, and a rare one, because most presidents haven't defended your freedom. They've quietly handed it over.
Before us, the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Listen to those words closely. We have a real chance at this new world order, where a credible United Nations can fulfill the vision of its founders. That's not independence, that's obedience. A world governed by unelected committees, outside your borders, beyond your vote, and above your Constitution. It's everything the Declaration of Independence warned us about. It's the same system we went to war to escape. And yet, every modern president but Kennedy, Reagan, and Trump has advanced that agenda to transfer America's power to global institutions we never chose. The New World Order can't succeed unless Americans quietly retract the Declaration of Independence. Not from the books, but from their beliefs. This isn't a theory, it's a test. And only one question matters now. Do you still believe that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed? My friends, we are all anonymous. We still believe, and we are not alone.
Create a new world order.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
We needed a new world order.
I have no idea where he get it. And I think it's a good way to start exploring about the New World Order. And we've been screwed up. We've been screwed by this deep state New World Order. So, and also the Newsom is part of it. Newsom family, Newsom criminal gang organization in Sacramento. Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, Newsom, Jerry Brown, all of them. Okay, they are part of the huge part of the organization. And anyway, I'm going to bring out another video. Wow, yeah. This is about a Carl, and if you're in California, you know who is Carl. And let me at least bring up his face. Yeah, okay. Reform California. And he is going to talk about the the redistricting, California district map by Newsom is very bad. It's awful. It's unconstitutional. He tried to bring it out and let people vote. That is not a democracy, okay? And that is really bad because we have rules for redistricting. Our gerrymandering, oh my goodness. Okay? And please stay tuned and continue. And continue to watch. Oh, one more thing, and please, and in the description has this video's link and also more information about his organization. And he is an assemblyman in California already. So please support him so he can stick around and fight for California.
We finally have our hands on the gerrymandered district maps that Governor Gavin Newsom and California politicians have been secretly concocting behind closed doors for weeks. And it's worse than we ever imagined. We will not have fair elections if these maps are adopted. Coming up, I'll share with you the maps, why they're so bad, and what we're doing to fight back and how you can help us preserve democracy and fight for fair elections in California. All that and more coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state legislator. It is Friday as we record this, and just moments ago, we got our hands on the gerrymandered maps that Governor Gavin Newsom has been threatening to impose on California for congressional districts. And as bad as I thought they were going to be, these are, well, much worse. I'm going to share with you the copy of the maps, and I'll show you just how contorted the geography is. So it shows you that these are not fair and they're not logical. It has everything to do with protecting politicians and giving a partisan advantage to one side over the other, ending competitive districts, ending fair elections. But what I want to do is urge you not to accept this corruption. Gavin Newsom is a liar. He is a cheat. He is corrupt. Frankly, at this point, he needs to be indicted. He needs to be removed from office, but it's too late to do a recall. But this is the consequence of one party, militant, abuse of power, corrupt politicians here in California. And you know what, liberal media? I hold you partly to account because you've enabled these sons of bitches for so many years. Yes, I'm angry. I'm angry because this is a brute example of abuse of power. And Newsom is not just saying, okay, we're going to, gerrymander for partisan gain. No, he's saying on the ballot that he's preserving the Independent Citizens Commission when in fact he's lying to voters. Everything about this is corrupt, is wrong, is dishonest. It is so infuriating. And so I implore you, fair-minded Californians, don't accept this crap. Send a message. If you're a Democrat, send a message to Gavin Newsom. The best way to send a message to bad politicians, make him a historic figure, not as president. End his political career in the special election that he's forcing at a cost of $250 million this November 4th. End it. That is the best disinfectant to prevent this crap from happening in the future. The rest of you who may not be Democrat, I need you to fight like never before, to talk to your Democrat neighbors and friends and family members and say, look, whether you like Trump or not, whether you like Democrats or Republicans or not, this is unfair. fair. This is not how we conduct ourselves. Two wrongs do not make a right. I am not supporting Texas's gerrymandering. I don't think gerrymandering is right. Whether it's done by Republicans for Republican benefit or Democrats for Democrat benefits, it is wrong. But here in California, it is particularly wrong because it's not just gerrymandering. It is absolute dishonesty on the ballot. They're being lied to. The voters are being lied to with the deceptive ballot title. And worse, the citizens already took the power away from the governor and the legislature to do what they're about to attempt to do. They're breaking their oath of office by violating the Constitution. We've covered all of that for the past several weeks. But here we are about to look at the maps. So the call to action before I get to the maps, if you are still on the sidelines, you need to get off the couch and into the fight. Go to the website, reformcalifornia.org. We are leading the fight to stop Gavin Newsom's gerrymandering of these districts. We need to protect fair elections. We need you to do that. So go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, and sign up right now. At the bottom, first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code. Our democracy depends upon you engaging in the fight. And the only way you can engage in the fight is if you're signed up as part of our movement and getting the information, knowing when our rallies are in your area, knowing when we have door hangers, knowing when we have palm cards, all of these things. So important that you are on communication connection with us. And the only way to do that is sign up at the bottom of that website, first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code. Plus, while you're there, please consider chipping in contributions. Anything, $5 is what helps. $50, $500, whatever you can do. Now is the time to double and triple down because our democracy is at stake. By the same, and it's put at threat by the people claiming to be preserving our democracy. It's like the devil saying that he's going to hold a Bible study. All right. Last night, the end results of the maps were obtained by Politico, which is who's going to win the maps. Because we already know. It doesn't matter which candidates run. The maps guarantee an outcome. We go from District 1 being safe Republican to being safe Democrat. District 3 safe Republican to being safe Democrat. District 5 safe Republican, safe Republican. Why? They pack a bunch of people into District 5 who are Republican. District 9 becomes more Democrat, lean Democrat to safe Democrat. District 13, lean Republican. No, now it's safe Democrat. District 20, safe Republican, safe Republican. District 22, lean Democrat to a little bit more lean Democrat. District 23, pack them on in, safe Republican, safe Republican. District 40, pack them on in, safe Republican, safe Republican. And then District 41, destroyed, safe Democrat. District 45, safe Democrat. District 47, safe Democrat. District 48, safe Republican goes to lean Democrat. And I know this district well. It's probably more likely Democrat. Let me show you the map. Here. That's Gavin Newsom's concept for redistricting. Oh, wait, hold on a second. That's the next map he's going to be sharing with us. No, here is their ill-gotten map. Here is a long view of it. Let me start out up in District 2, which used to be District 1 and this top right rural area of green. It used to be a district that was representative of the northern, eastern slice of our state, all rural areas, very common communities of interest. Not anymore. Those poor people up in the top get drawn in all the way through Redding, all the way down to San Francisco Bay. This is insane. It is wrong. It is offensive. And then Chico, this district that used to be one big district over here, they take the southern portion of that district and layer it in with people in Napa, close to the Bay Area. District 3, which used to be a reliably Republican seat, now snakes in and takes up South Sacramento, but it goes all the way to Carson City and Reno. Then we go down the Central Valley, and they're moving lines again to shore up Democrats and pack in Republicans. Then we get down to Southern California. That's when things really get insane. For example, Huntington Beach is going to go all the way into LA, the 47th Congressional District. They pack all the Republicans in Orange County and in Riverside County into the 40th. The 50th District here in San Diego, goes from Coronado, a little beach community in the very far west on the coast, and then snakes all the way up in 50th District, all the way up to Valley Center. Valley Center has nothing in common with Coronado, Pacific Beach, Mission Beach. Both are great places. All of them are great places, but not a community of interest and not a compact district. It would take an hour to drive this district in an area where it should be compact geography, communities right around. District 50 goes from Hillcrest and southeastern San Diego all the way to Ramona. There are horses in Ramona. Some would argue that, again, there is absolutely no common bonds, common way of life, shared ties with these communities. Oh, but look at District 48. Look at this crap. Goes from rural San Diego with Borrego Springs and Julian, and then zooms all the way over to Vista, California, and then zooms all the way up just to get a piece, it looks like, of Temecula, slicing Temecula in half, then zigzags all the way out to Palm Springs and even Indio. So here you got Palm Springs being in the same district as Vista, a 2-hour drive. Palm Springs is a stone's throw, literally, across Oceanside from the freeway from Vista to the Pacific Ocean. This is absolutely outrageous. This is gerrymandering. And oh, Governor Newsom is so proud. So proud. This is corruption. It's unethical. And as I've discussed all week, it's illegal. And yes, we are going to be suing Gavin Newsom. But again, the courts out here are not any group of people that I would put my confidence in. They are appointed by Democrats in the state courts. Federal courts will take a longer time to litigate these issues. And so we are forced, while we exercise all of our legal options and file all the lawsuits we can, we have got to be prepared to beat this at the ballot box. And ballots are going to go out literally October 1st. That's when they drop in the mail. They'll be at people's homes October 4th, 5th, 6th. Voting begins those days. So we have 6 weeks to get together a campaign, a grassroots campaign of neighbor telling neighbor, friend telling friend, a family member telling family member, coworker telling colleague, the truth about the lie that's going to appear on the ballot that somehow Gavin Newsom and Democrat politicians are trying to preserve independent redistricting. Bull. They're lying to voters directly on their ballots with misleading ballot title that they have poll tested, along with these data-driven, scalpel, gerrymandered districts as the final product. But all in the entire transaction, the citizens lose the independent, nonpartisan redistricting commission, and the power goes back to the politicians. The politicians seize back control and the power to manipulate their maps. This is a time where good people need to do all they can. We will not have competitive districts. We will not have fair elections in California if this goes through. People will lose hope that they will have any sort of voice in government. Oh, and they're not going to stop just with these cycles. We're going to do it temporarily if Texas does it. No, they're using people's hatred of Donald Trump. They're using Trump and Texas as the excuse. These politicians never wanted an independent redistricting commission to begin with. They've always looked for an opportunity to gut it and seize back power. This is just the ruse, the dishonest tactic that they've resorted to. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger is part of the coalition. I love this photo. Blank the politicians, terminate gerrymandering. Put out this tweet today. I'm getting ready for the gerrymandering battle. Again, I've criticized Arnold Schwarzenegger for not being the best of governors, but I have to give credit that he's stepping up and on principle fighting these politicians, these corrupt politicians, to preserve the citizens' ability to draw the lines. Again, go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. Like this video, subscribe to this channel so that we can get our message out, that people can see the map that I just shared with you. Next week, I'll be battling on the assembly floor this corrupt package every step of the way. I know that the vote is already cooked because they've already traded the favors and the backroom deals have been done. But I am imploring you, this is now going to go to the voters. So let's reach the voters and get them to do the right thing, and I believe they will. The polling shows that 2/3 of California voters want to maintain the Citizens Redistricting Commission. They want independent maps, nonpartisan maps. They don't want politicians drawing the lines. The issue is on our side. But we have a misleading ballot title that we're up against. And politicians in California have always used those deceptive titles to hoodwink people. Not this time. We actually will be able to get resources from all sorts of coalition members. Arnold Schwarzenegger is not the only coalition member that's joining us. And I do believe that there's a lot more potential for bringing Democrat and independent votes into our fold. It's up to you. Activate, contribute, sign up, reformcalifornia.org. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.
If you are in California, you know who he is. And he's been very active. He did a lot of great stuff. He did a lot of great things, yeah. And alert the deceptive title lah. Okay, and thank you everyone for sticking around. Thank you everyone for staying more than 30 seconds. Thank you. I hope this one can prove YouTube that our audience are a real audience, not parts, So, okay. Now, because this is a Hongkongese channel, Hong Kong channel, so I will have to go back to my Cantonese now to go through about really quickly in Cantonese for the new immigrants. See, my mission about this channel is helping the new immigrants to become Americans. Sooner or later, those people will become Americans, and hopefully I help them get a foundation, get a basic knowledge to be a registered Republican and help them experience the greatest of our Republican Party and using logic to see the right and wrong and whole picture in politics. It's going to be a fun journey. It's going to be a fun journey, I will guarantee. If that's all I want to say. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for sticking around. Thank you very much. I will have to go back to because I have my Hong Kong I need to serve. I need to let them know what they are supposed to do, so they won't get misled by the fake news. And also, it's just like Univision. Univision is paid by Soros, owned by Soros. So Soros want them to put wherever information. So, and then many Chinese newspaper or Chinese channel, they get the information from the left media and then they translate into Chinese and send it to our new immigrants. So I need to make sure the new immigrants, this is how you know yeah. So I need to help the new immigrants to know our system. And I don't want them to bring their political point of view to our country. Before I was saying, I did in a few episodes before, I tell the new immigrant, we've been having the Second Amendment since almost 250 years. So when they come here, they already know we can own guns. So don't come over here and then complain about guns. Complain about our Second Amendment. If you don't like the Second Amendment, don't come here. This is the message I telling all my Hong Konger or Chinese friends. Don't come here if you don't like guns. We have a Second Amendment since almost 250 years. I repeat. So if you don't like guns, don't come here. A lot of people debate, we can bring our culture. This is the greatest country in the world where we have all different towns. We have Korean town, Chinese town, Chinatown, Japanese town, you know, Vietnamese town, Armenian town, Thai town. We have all of them, all different kind of town, because we are big melting pot. This country is welcome. This country welcome different culture, but don't bring the rules. Don't bring the political mindset into America. So just if you don't like our Second Amendment, don't come here. Period. There's a lot of countries they don't have guns. Just go somewhere else. You know. And you don't come here. Yeah, you don't come here. Yes. Don't come here if you cannot accept our Second Amendment. Thank you very much. And whoever enjoy the U.S. Constitution, you are welcome. And my job is my mission is helping all the new immigrants to know about a political system. Well, thank you very much. I really need to, it's 12 something. I really need to start my Cantonese message. Thank you. If you are Chinese who understand Cantonese, please comment so I know who you are. OK， 大家好啊，歡迎嚟到天下之多啲。今日好多4條片，好豐富嘅內容，但係就好感謝咁多嘅觀眾都係英文咯留言，所以我就一路要焗住講我嘅 Chinglish 俾咁多位觀眾，冇辦法嚇。我同大家講過嘅啦，我啲竹聲嚟噶嘛，我啲竹聲就係兩頭唔到，中文又唔得，英文又唔得。但係咧，我覺得唔緊要，最緊要將我嘅信息可以帶到出去咯。信息係緊要過我嗰個語言，即係當然啦。如果我個語言能力咧 係更加好嚇，咁更多人可以明白我講乜嘢，呢個就係當然更好啦。咁我都係會繼續去努力咯。譬如你哋見到我個口啊開始會喐多啲啊，講英文嗰陣時呢個嘴咧會，其實講英文嗰陣時咧好多時個嘴咧就要更加誇張嘅啊，個 yes。個嘴型咧更加要誇張嘅，如果唔夠誇張啊，都會講得唔夠清楚嘅啊。咁我就嘗試咯，咁學緊啊，盡量啲。就算我廣東話都好多俾人話我好多廣東話懶音啦，所以我啲中文又唔準，英文又唔準啊。但係喺做嘅過程一邊做邊學咯。咁我哋大家睇一睇咧，之前咧澤連斯基咧。就喺Mega Yes， 喺澤連斯基咧，就喺嗰個叫做歐盟，所以有時好難有中文有英文跳嚟跳去咧。所以啲人識翻譯嗰啲係真係好叻嘅。可以一跳英文一跳中文啊！我啲冇啲咁嘅天分，我同大家睇一睇啊。澤連斯基咧，2025年啦8月呢啲翻譯唔準嘅嚇，馮德萊恩，馮德萊恩啊，馮德萊恩 OK。喺2025年8月17號咧嚇，喺呢個地方啦，布魯塞爾聯合記者會上演講。長期支持烏克蘭啦，馮德萊恩承認原文咧將指會需要會長期支持烏克蘭啦咁樣啦，保障安全保障啦，反對領土讓步啦。佢都話佢有一個好重點咧就係咯，佢反對領土讓步㗎，即係嗰個界線係邊度就邊度咯。所以嗰個 swap 嗰個咧，即係換地方咧，有可能。歐盟都唔會支持，所以到時聽日就睇下 Trump 點樣講咯，睇下大家點樣傾咯。咁咧對俄羅斯制裁啦，咁佢都講好多制裁嘅。咁聽日又係即係呢個4點，第5點啊，跨大西洋與歐洲聯盟呢個其實呢個歐盟 OK。所以我哋對歐盟咧係保持距離嘅。之前咧我咪有個 New World Order 嘅影片嘅 ，New World Order 個影片就係講俾人知，我哋要小心一啲嘅 New World Order 喺我哋嘅 Mega 裏邊嚇，喺 Mega 陣營裏邊都有啲 New World Order 新世界秩序嘅人喺入邊咯，嚇，所以要小心。我哋喺呢個國力，即係喺呢個世界，喺呢個 geopolitics 裏邊，我哋一定要留意住呢樣嘢。又唔需要話即係起晒槓啊！我哋有啲mega 友咧就會喺口度嗌geopolitics globalist OK 嚇。咁我哋 because the ultimate goal first thing first stop dying 呢個就係 Trump first goal。梗係 stop dying 之餘，我哋唔可以 lost 咗我哋嗰個priority。我哋 priority 就係 mega America first。如果當我哋去幫烏克蘭，我哋就 lost 咗我哋個 mega 同埋 lost 咗我哋嘅 America first， 我哋就唔會去做噶啦嚇。同埋都唔係我哋打，都唔關我哋，都唔係我哋長仗嚇。我哋 just walk away 嚇。我哋 walk away 嘅話，我哋而家咁多錢入咗嚟，咁多 manufacture 開始起緊，我哋就咁 walk away。我哋唔同你呢兩個國家傾，唔同佢哋呢兩個國家傾，因為你哋打生打死，你兩邊都唔爭氣，兩邊都唔係好人嚟嘅，反正兩邊都唔爭氣，走啊！ 佢走去幫第二度啊，佢走去幫台灣。台灣我同你投資，我幫你俾啲軍隊你啊，俾啲乜嘢你。哇！嗰陣時阿毓民就另眼相看啊，即刻咧好嘢，即刻唔會亂係咁啊插白倉。我喺英文嗰度咧都已經有講啊，知識、經驗同邏輯呢3樣嘢唔係我作嘅，我就冇啲咁嘅知識冇啲咁嘅經驗同埋冇啲咁嘅邏輯可以諗到呢3樣嘢出嚟，就係咧阿毓民教嘅。我識好多嘢咧，都係毓民教嘅。咁我都喺度，我應該俾佢知㗎啦，我都話俾佢知我成日都係講佢呢3樣嘢㗎啦，周圍宣傳啦。所以第日咧真係要俾翻啲 credit 佢咯。所以我一定講完，我一定，因為你都唔係學咗啲嘢咧去就咁，我覺得咯即係應該要俾翻 credit 毓民咁咧呢個啦就6樣嘢，其實以實力求和平peace to strength 啦，即係歐盟咧呢6樣嘢 ，OK。聽日就會傾呢6樣嘢㗎啦，咁咧就睇下傾成點咯。之前咧睇下先呢度呢個就係咧我諗到嘅一個我觀察到嘅一個現象。當我觀察到呢個現象咧，我就要諗點樣講啊嘛。咁而家有 AI 咧，我唔使嘥好多時間咧，就可以整理到出嚟先。整理到出嚟，當然咧有啱有唔啱啦。主要個重點睇下有冇，同埋而家 AI Gemini 呢度咧，仲可以幫我翻譯埋中文，極之方便。話幾長嘅，詳細到不得了叫你讀真係嘛？中文OK， 同大家呢個非常深刻嘅問題指出咧唔同嘅媒體生態咧系統解讀呢個烏克蘭戰爭即係我頭先有講，所以我頭先有個 po 出嚟咧，就係 good or evil，life or death。你睇呢個你睇呢個問題咧，係睇佢係 good or evil， 定係你睇 life or death？ 阿 Trump 就睇 life or death， 有人死喎去解決問題。有啲人如果佢睇佢係good or evil 咧，咁咪要對冧個 evil 啦。所以又會用唔同方式、唔同嘅心態去解讀呢件事所以我就頭先有呢個po 出咗嚟，亦都有用英文講咗少少啦。頭先應該用英文講少少嗰陣時，應該就出埋呢個文章，或者我最後咧我就再夾埋喺 description 度咯。唯有如果有啲人有興趣咧，就可以睇嘅；冇興趣我都幫唔到佢啦。OK。咁好多謝大家留言啦，康哥多謝你留言咁好多謝大家嘅留言。屌，咁又爛咗呢個，哇成嚿爛咗，又要買新啦。好彩頭先有人課金咗10雞屎俾我，好彩係咪爛咗？定係冇咗個圖？唔係喎，仲可以，唔係喎，淨係冇咗個膠圖就 make sure 我聽到大家講嘢咯。而家就係咪真係仲有64人咧？有時要開下第二個睇咯。咁希望你哋繼續留低，等我 double 好快咁 check 有冇啲齊唔齊人喺度啫double check 下睇下齊唔齊人喺度，跟住咧就好快俾少少時間我 double check 下。仲有63人，多謝，哇好感激好感激，今日算係有少少成就有啲滿足感。做呢啲就係咁嘅，有時咧好失落㗎，因為咧我做完咁辛苦，我以為有3萬幾個 view 好開心，咁咪好期待嗰啲佣金 咁結果咧原來咧佢係當我400幾，有個10幾啫，有一條片係10幾，咁啊哇好失落，咁啊開始去尋找理由咯，咁啊發覺原來係啲人一定要停留多過30秒，有可能之前咧即係啲片咧冇理由唔停留多過30秒嘅，如果你睇啲片嘅話，所以我唔知道咯。咁我亦都好希望YouTube 大神咧就手下留情咯，因為我係需要有呢個嘅收入先可以繼續落去，因為咧老婆仔嗰啲都已經紮晒營嚇。咁最主要我都係因為咗2026選舉啦。咁今日咧就發覺咧，我好需要咧更加做好啲，就幫啲新移民同埋將呢啲整個 concept 咧，整啲好多概念咧，就帶到出嚟咯。所以我今日開始咧，以後咧都唔會點講粗口噶啦，除非有啲真係好離譜嘅嘢咧，可能會講粗口。因為我想咧，亦都可以幫到更多嘅新移民咧嚟到之後咧，去理解點樣去做一個美國人。當你理解到知道自己點樣做一個美國人嘅話，因為你都喺度落地生根㗎啦嘛。咁你啲下一代咧，亦都可以好好地喺呢邊享受做美國人嘅自由啊嘛。就唔好咧，就係成日諗住翻大陸啊，成日諗住翻香港，或者成日諗住翻去祖瓜啊嗰啲咁嘅嘢。你都死，你都喺度都買山墳啦，已經，你都已經喺度買山墳啦，你做乜仲要咁樣諗咧？冇噶啦嚇！今時又唔同往日啦，今時嘅你以前咧仲話要真係山長水遠搭飛機搭船啊，翻鄉下探親。而家互聯網咁方便你根本就成日都可以見面噶啦。有咩資訊嗰啲嘢，咁啊希望大家咧繼續去幫我分享我嘅頻道，分享我個 channel 喺你啲 WeChat 群組，因為我冇 WeChat 嘅，分享你哋 WeChat 小紅書乜都好啦 ，OK？ 我唔怕共產黨喐我嘅我講事實嘅。邊個 never beat 係咪裝到 ？It will never beat America，yeah， 係咯。咁希望咧繼續咯。咁而家呢個咧就係講個烏克蘭啦。咁咧就係講緊嗰個角度左派主流觀點咧，好似 CNN 整翻下我先。大家又可以喺熒光幕亦都睇到，應該夠大啦啲字喺熒光幕就可以睇到啦。問題咧就係核心問題咧，俄羅斯冇即係核心問題 good and evil 啊嘛，因為俄羅斯冇理由無端端走去搞人啊嘛，咁違反咗國際法啊嘛，國家主權啦，同埋二次後建立個全球秩序啊嘛。OK， 呢個就係所以我話咩係 good and evil 嗰個概念喺度啦。咁呢個衝突咧，視為一種獨裁侵略式，試圖征服一個較小嘅民主鄰國嘅典型案例咯。暴行戰爭罪破壞呢啲整樣嘢，普京係咪犯咗咧？100% 係犯咗呢啲，冇得否定㗎啦但係你咬佢食咩？你再死多啲人咯再死多啲人咪得咯，或者你再死多啲人同佢冚過就有可能就有可能贏到佢，同埋佢有核彈㗎。你同佢喐到一個地步，你真係要驚有樣嘢，就係佢真係喐用核武咧其實佢點解唔驚拜登啊？就係拜登喺嗰個巴勒斯坦嗰邊熬咗底嘛，跪低咗啊嘛，唔見晒啲武器啊嘛，賣晒俾嗰班恐怖分子塔利班攞晒啊嘛啲武器，佢就見到美國原來咁狗嗰陣時咁屎咁咧佢咧就以為咧好快征服嘅幾日搞掂你烏克蘭佢係咁樣諗嘅。好衰唔衰？我哋有個 Elon Musk 因為好多時戰爭第一樣打斷咗佢個 communication 啊嘛，一打斷佢諗住一打斷咗你個烏克蘭個 communication， 搞掂啦就已經可以一路入個直產入去。好衰唔衰？我哋有個 Elon Musk 第一時間 send Starlink， 哇嚇嗰啲軍隊全部有晒 communication， 所以有功勞㗎 Elon Musk。烏克蘭就係嗰陣時左媒係咁樣，因為阿 Elon Musk 走去幫阿 Trump， 所以左媒就抹黑佢，又去 Tesla 嗰度示威。你話嗰啲人真係幾咁不堪啊！再講衰啲叫撲街，係咪？就走去搞阿 Elon Musk。你唔諗下 Elon Musk 嗰陣時烏克蘭嗰陣時，如果唔係 Elon Musk 出 Starlink， 烏克蘭玩完啦已經，幾日搞掂佢啦。普京大佬嗰班全部唔係冇料到啊嘛，即係傳聞就話佢冇料到啦，係咪？真係冇料到，咪打到而家。咁建議解決方案咧，唯一接受嘅長期解決方案咧係俄羅斯遭受戰略性失敗咯。第一啦，即係等佢輸啦。佢而家唔輸啊嘛，即係廢話，即係左膠嗰啲廢話，冇得輸，輸唔到，唔係輸唔到係贏唔到，係咪？贏唔到咁點啫？係嘛？同埋最終啊！如果佢真係快啲爛渣上嚟啊，港九入窮巷，我哋呢啲就知啦。你港九入窮巷最終係點啊？佢同你攬炒咯。普京係 KGB 出身，同埋都唔細年紀，佢已經一把年紀，佢又唔使話咩啦。佢同你攬炒，癲起上嚟同你攬炒，你就大鑊。你未有嗰個實力之前，因為我哋根本就未夠實力。唔好唔記得背後仲有個中共佢一走嚟搞攬炒，中共就乘機打台灣，你明唔明啊？所以話 Trump 做好多嘢係睇成個大 picture 啊，左膠啊屌！即係有時見到啲黃絲嗰啲嘅鬱文，成日叫佢哋黃狗，睇嘢就睇唔到大 picture。要撐烏克蘭，撐烏克蘭，黐線嘅！因為阿川唔好，阿川唔撐，阿川撐普京，傻啊！我頭先就俾咗個分析你啦。如果佢真係港九入窮巷，普京真係再即係瞓身去打烏克蘭嗰陣時，焗住美軍出，空晒第二邊。我哋而家兩邊有人噶嘛，大陸嗰邊都有人噶嘛，唔係大陸有人係。台灣嗰邊、海峽嗰邊都有啲，我哋啲軍隊要夾住噶嘛，係咪？呢個分析能明啊？贊成定唔贊成咧？你留言啦，係嘛？咩 fake 啊 ？Stop the propaganda fake 你就 fake fake 乜嘢啫？我唔知你 fake 乜，你寫個 fake 字寫晒佢啦！屌你老母寫個 fake 字 fake 乜嘢啫？濕鳩，你 fake Democrat 我就 OK 係嘛？你 fake 我就 fake 你啦，屌呢啲嘢唔係我寫嘅，大佬呢啲嘢係 Gemini 同我寫嘅，咁我只係俾啲向烏克蘭提供支持嘅先進嘅軍事，呢個就係想話俾呢個就係響一邊嘅眼光去睇點樣可以打贏，點樣打贏你？好似話隻抽咁啊！我點樣可以打贏呢條友？打頭啊、打身啊、打腳啊、踢腳啊嗰啲咁嘅招式啊，咁樣即係唔同招式用詠春好啊，定用紅拳好咧？打你呢個 boxer 係嘛？呢啲咁嘅類似。 理論係咧，任何以烏克蘭領土作為獎勵談判，都將為全球未來嘅侵略行為開創一個危險嘅先例。大陸慣咗啦，已經咩危險先例嘅嚇？大陸買咗幾多俾俄羅斯啦？即係中共賣咗幾多嘢俾俄羅斯啦？係咪？中共賣咗幾多嘢俾俄羅斯啦？成個領土係嘛？以前咧，我哋讀書嗰陣時咧，我哋讀中國個地形咧就好似個桑葉咁嘅。我哋細個讀書，而家個中國地形咧就好似隻公雞咁嘅所以呢個 difference 右派呢個右派嘅角度啦，右派角度有種叫做民粹主義啦不干預主義觀點呢個就係右派嘅諗法啦。OK， 呢種觀點咧常見於 Fox News 入邊啦，係咪？特別係過去咧主持人咧 Tucker Carlson 啦，呢個係 Tucker Carlson 啦，各種保守派談判電台嘅嗰種嘅角度啦，我哋成日都去睇 American First 呢啲戰爭唔關我事嗰啲咁嘅嘢咯我哋使好多錢呢啲啦，咁冇錯喎大佬，你哋嘅戰爭做乜我哋要參與咧？你咪打到夠咯，係嘛？但係我哋啲正義感上頭啊嘛，好多人有正義感上頭啊，正義感上頭就唔緊要嘅，如果係嘛？如果係基於你自卑咧，咁就麻煩啲咯。咁琴日嗰集咧就有講到㗎啦，點就大家麻煩咧翻去睇翻。建議解決方案咧，解決方案咧係立即推動談判解決。呢種觀點咧唔強調烏克蘭嘅全面勝利，認為呢啲不切實際又代價過高即係減少設定烏克蘭援助嘅條件。呢個就係我哋有一部分嘅 mega 嘅諗法 ，OK， 唔係所有嘅。因為我哋美國優先，睇下呢度核心論點係美國優先，美國有自己嘅國內問題。頭先 Marco Rubio 都有講到 ，Marco Rubio 都係 American First 啦。咁佢哋都覺得我哋係，佢都知道嘅我哋有呢個問題啦，話不應在一個沒有明確結局嘅外國戰爭上花費數千億美元啦。咁停止傷亡嘅目標係至關重要，呢個係因為阿 Trump 想要做嘅。點解阿 Trump 想要 end 咗呢啲 war 咧？因為唔會幫到美國好，唔會 mega。如果拖住呢個戰爭咧 ，mega 就唔會又即係又棘住咯。點解？因為我哋想石油嗰度平啲啊嘛。咁同埋北極唔知有啲乜嘢咧，我哋嗰啲 supercomputer 嗰扎嘢，總之嗰隻科技嘢data server 嗰啲咧，其實都好想喺嗰邊可以安全叫做發展。如果咁樣搞落去，又成日要危乎啊嘛！你放啲嘢喺阿拉斯加下邊，阿拉斯加放喺阿拉斯加下邊，放啲 super server，你都唔知幾時一陣間阿普京揾人走去搞佢，係嘛？咁如果可以妥協啦，同烏克蘭你唔好打咁大家一齊揾食啦，咁樣係嘛？大家最緊要揾食啫呢啲人又咁辛苦，而家全部啲人咧就走曬去做子彈咁樣，即係何必咧？咁你要冇咗係農產品㗎啦嘛，慢慢係嘛？我作為呢個咧就係好搞笑，我問埋佢㗎嘛 ，pros and cons 有咩佢嘅意見係點啊嘛？咁佢話我只係一個咧人工智慧助理嘅分析方法咁樣咯。呢個就係張文嚟答我嘅。 即係全面定義核心問題啦，佢嘅睇法嚇。人道危機39個人仲有，多謝大家繼續喺度，多謝大家喺度繼續聽埋呢部分啊！我睇下先，呢個部分之後就唔講啦。即係人道危機啊，違反國際法啊，呢啲都係嗰個問題所在咯。經濟成本、全球不穩定呢啲問題咧，方案啊，根據可能後果分析建議嘅解決方案，唔知啊 Zelensky 同Trump 佢哋有冇去 AI 下？AI 下都可能有啲答案㗎喎。都有啲計㗎喎，我會估計咧，每種提議嘅解決方案咧，唔係基於政治來源，而係基於對上述嘅每個問題可能產生嘅結果。方案 A 啦，全力支持烏克蘭嘅取得決定性勝利，潛在正面嘅影響啦，可能維護國際法，嚇阻全球未來侵略行為，並為一個主權完整嘅烏克蘭帶來公正且持久嘅和平，呢個都係估啦。潛在嘅正面影響，潛在嘅負面影響啦可能導致一場廣日持久、傷亡慘重嘅戰爭啊！可能激怒咗一個絕望嘅俄羅斯採取，我頭先有講啊，採取更激烈升級行動對民國而言，經濟咧成本咧極高，需長期承擔，成功並冇保證。呢個就係方案 A， 全力去支持，奮身去支持烏克蘭啦。呢個方案 A。方案 B 咯，就係推動談判解決，可能咧就涉及領土讓步，而家佢哋喺度傾緊，都係類似呢啲咁嘅嘢潛在正面嘅影響咧，就係正面嘅呢個可能喺短期內停止殺戮同破壞，將減少直接嘅經濟成本，降低衝擊擴大嘅風險，廣大嘅風險啊！I'm sorry。潛在負面影響咧，就係可能獎勵侵略者係咪？即係你侵略完，你都係不過如是啫。即係好似我哋班左膠喺呢邊執法，喺美國本土班支持罪犯嗰班啦，左膠係嘛？拉完之後就唔使嗰個 bail 燒 bail 就可以放人㗎啦就咁咯。佢唔要喺呢個情況同一種做法啦，就係會獎勵喎。違反咗正義和國際法則可能造成一個好唔穩定啦。因為你做就得，我做唔得咩？咁我就照去做啦你做就夠，即係有呢個負面嘅影響喺呢個談判裏邊，所以呢個談判就係非常 tricky 嘅。所以我中意 AI 咁解，即係當然啦，因為我哋唔係知道更深入邊成個局勢嘅。阿 Trump 同阿普京傾咗啲乜嘢仔細入邊仲要傾咗啲咩？聽日就知啦。聽日係三方會談，聽日就係三方會談拍埋歐盟有可能搞個 New World Order 出嚟㗎，可能搞個 New World Order 都唔出奇㗎我唔知。我嘅分析咧會呢個綜合一個多軌並行嘅方法咧，就係我分析咧會得出嘅結論啦。呢個我咧就係 Gemini 啦，呢個 AI 話啦， 一個可持續嘅解決方案好少存在於咧極端之中嘅。一個穩健嘅方案咧，很可能包含咗來自唔同觀點嘅元素。呢個左膠一定唔中意聽㗎啦。並按謹慎嘅程序咧進行管理，維持壓力喎。我睇下先四樣嘢啫，好快啊！四樣嘢呢個真係覺得唔好走啊！大家咧，如果啱啱入嚟咧，我就而家係講緊啲方案 AI 出嚟啲方案，即係聽日咧有可能可以用得着嘅。聽日阿 Trump 佢哋可能用得着啊！呢個咧綜合咗啦，就係維持壓力、明確目標，繼續為烏克蘭提供自衛嘅手段，以確保其不會因軟弱而被強迫接受不利嘅協議。軍事協助的目標是為實現公正和平創造有利條件，而不必追求一個例如進軍莫斯科嘅全面勝利，或者普京斬頭啊呢度啲咁嘅嘢咯就未必去做到嗰一步嘅。咁但係一定要喺 peace through strength 啊嘛，呢個又係 Trump 嘅。咁歐盟亦都有提呢樣嘢 peace through strength， 所以咧一定就俾烏克蘭強心針㗎啦。澤連斯基啫係嘛，又轉過乜嘢㗎啦，成班人撐佢㗎啦，撐佢就係因為等佢可以傾嘅，撐佢唔係等佢可以打。呢個就係第一個，等佢有呢個大家咁高咁大咁樣。但係有時澤連斯基就係咁衰嘅，我覺得，所以我話佢唔係好人嚟嘅。一撐到佢之後咧，佢就變本加厲揸住雞毛當令箭。上次嚟到夠頂死就當 J.D. Vance 冇數 ，J.D. Vance 有可能係我哋下屆嘅總統嚟嘅大佬所以咧真係，所以我都唔中意佢。但係冇辦法，阿 Trump 話唔好死人，唔好死人我係撐阿 Trump 嘅。開放外交渠道，在維持軍事支持嘅同時咧，積極尋求並保持外交渠道嘅暢通。而家有啦，好暢通啦，已經暢通到不得了啊！這並不矛盾，你實力作為後盾，外交才是最有效。又係 peace through strength 咯，好似拜登嗰啲人冇料到咁，淨係俾錢去，跟住就唔見咗幾百億，咁去咗邊？根本係自己咁樣屈尾十自己袋咗唔出奇。建立和平框架，國際社會可以努力界定一個公正且安全和平嘅應該係咩樣咧？咁呢個咧就。佢講得好啱啊！必須由烏克蘭主導，但係又好麻煩，因為澤連斯基呢個係契弟嚟㗎嘛。你唔好以為係普京係契弟，澤連斯基亦都係契弟。OK？ 歐盟喺埋入邊係仲危險，一個 New World Order 嘅，因為歐盟而家先至話對美國，因為Trump贏咗先至話好啲啊，又係想美國死啊！但由歐盟支持，關鍵問題將係烏克蘭主權呢個地方面咧唔可以，因為歐盟嗰度咧北約啫，而家歐盟嚟撐佢，北約就冇出聲如果佢一入北約咧，哇，普京可能都發癲啊！烏克蘭主權喺哪方面是可以談判呢？呢個又唔知，呢個就會傾㗎啦。聽日可以向雙方提供一個點樣安全保證，防止未來嘅衝突唔好咧跟澤連斯基威得滯攞晒啲武器又有錢之後咧，就走去打返普京將如何處理戰爭罪行並進行戰爭賠償呢個澤連斯基有講到你炸完我咁多嘢，你咁樣拍個籮柚，跟住唔好意思I'm sorry， 跟住當冇事發生過。澤連斯基話：梗係唔得啦，唔多唔少你都要賠啲嘅。睇下而家咧就係賠嗰個額點賠法，聽日都會傾噶啦。 即係澤連斯基就唔好三分顏色上大紅，得寸進尺適可而止，睇住佢成個 EU 冇乜點講阿 Trump 啊，呢條撲街 ，OK 喺個 meeting 度，所以其實好撲街嘅呢條友。阿 Trump 做好多嘢都係 favour 緊佢嘅，當然佢就 favour 緊佢，同時佢要睇埋大局噶嘛。你澤連斯基就一個國家，你係攬住個國家嘛。美國要睇住成世界、全世界啊，大佬。所以澤連斯基真係呢個係撲街嚟嘅，有時都冇辦法。而家就係幫緊個撲街，去唔好俾個更撲街嘅打咁樣。我唔知點啊。關注最終目標啊！最終目標係一個穩定而公平和平。因為阿媽係女人啦，而不僅僅係為咗冇戰爭咯，一個迅速結束戰爭，但數百萬烏克蘭人生活嘅佔領下，並為未來衝突埋下隱患嘅方案，並唔能解決核心問題，同樣不計任何代價地追求軍事勝利，而沒有外交退路呢，亦都係一條危險嘅道路咯。呢個四樣嘢就其實講真，阿 Trump 佢哋嗰班團隊咩嘅團隊全部都識呢個呢。如果而家呢係阿拜登呢，咁佢哋就要學呢樣嘢咯。簡單而言，我嘅方法係呢，解構兩極化嘅媒體所呈現嘅兩元選擇啦。問題不僅僅係如何停止戰爭，而是如何在尊重主權、最大限度減少人類痛苦嘅同時，實現一個能夠嚇阻未來侵略嘅持久和平。這需要複雜戰略啊，同時運用軍事壓力和外交手段。軍事壓力同外交手段啊，阿 Trump 咪有啦。普京嚟到阿拉斯加上邊飛過，整架 B2 翻埋俾你飛過先。飛過完之後，普京完啦，講完嘢啦，就擦阿 Trump 鞋啦。跟住佢做咩啊？同阿 Trump 講，下次 meeting 不如你嚟莫斯科啊，因為咧阿 Trump 講過㗎，你下下你都唔讓步咧，阿 Trump 炸你莫斯科。阿 Trump 炸你莫斯科就好似炸伊朗咁啊，可以即係俾嗰個 B2 飛機飛過話俾佢知啊，你睇下。你亞支亞咗，你樣即係唔讓步，所以佢之後佢其實好多嘢佢都係，但係有啲嘢阿 Trump 亦都唔係，即係一定要普京輸，因為普京真係見到走投無路咧，就亦都好危險嘅。所以一個成熟嘅領袖，阿 Trump 係一個非常成熟嘅領袖，就唔係好似澤連斯基咁呢啲咁嘅二打六總統，佢係非常腐敗嘅出咗名㗎啦。多謝大家收睇咗就嚟，竟然咧就去到差唔多1點啦。咁而家仲有幾多人喺度咧？希望咧，仲有23個人，終於多謝大家40個 like， 多謝大家收睇。我哋有好多，其實仲有好多話題嘅，不過唔講啦。好多謝大家嘅收睇，幫手分享出去咁仲有唔記得放，我而家有 T-shirt 賣我終於俾我揾到咧網上面，我上次用過一個網上面嘅 T-shirt 公司咧，我啲朋友 order 完之後咧，哇搞成個月都未攞到件衫着所以咧我就轉啦。就揾到另外一間，呢間咧就直接同 YouTube 咧就比較容易掛鈎嘅，即係同 YouTube 好 connect 得好啲啦，啲 software 所有嘢。咁我就嘗試用佢咯。咁就開始咗放咗一個產品上去啫，試緊。咁我自己亦都會試去 order，跟住買啦。咁希望大家嚟支持。我哋下次再見，拜拜。